Powerful earthquake and tsunami cause minimal damage. A success story of global disaster response. What accounts for the surprisingly minimal damage caused by such a powerful earthquake and tsunami? On Wednesday, a seismic event of extraordinary magnitude struck a sparsely populated area in the far eastern part of Russia, marking one of the strongest earthquakes ever documented. This powerful quake unleashed a tsunami that surged across the ocean at astonishing speeds, reaching hundreds of miles per hour. In the aftermath, a race against time ensued as early warning systems activated, alerting coastal regions in Japan, Hawaii, and the western coast of the United States. Remarkably, the extent of the damage has been relatively minor, largely due to a highly effective global disaster response initiative. Over 3 million individuals were successfully evacuated from their homes, showcasing the efficiency of the response efforts. Central to this impressive operation was the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, PTWC, located in Hawaii. Established in 1949, the PTWC had already begun monitoring tsunamis across the ocean by the 1960s. A dedicated team of specialists quickly assessed the earthquake's magnitude and depth, triggering a tsunami warning almost immediately. The entire process functioned seamlessly, and their rapid response likely saved countless lives, allowing many temporary evacuees to return home shortly after the event. However, this vital work faces potential jeopardy. The PTWC is part of a U.S. government agency that has experienced budget cuts under the Trump administration. The earthquake, measuring 8.8 on the Richter scale, struck off the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia on Wednesday morning. The rupture occurred along a fault line that stretches for hundreds of miles, where the Pacific Plate is subducting beneath the North American Plate. This region is home to one of the largest fault systems on the planet, known as a megathrust fault, and its underwater sections pose a constant tsunami risk. The earthquake originated 30 miles, 47 kilometers beneath the ocean's surface, sending shock waves that traveled up to 200 miles away. Tsunamis can move across the ocean at speeds comparable to a jumbo jet, approximately 500 miles per hour, which meant that some communities had only a few minutes to prepare, while those farther away had several hours. Contrary to cinematic portrayals of a single massive wave, tsunamis typically consist of multiple waves that can continue to propagate around the globe for days. So, what was the extent of the damage, and where did it occur? The epicenter of the quake was located near Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, a Russian city with a population of around 180,000. As ports began to flood, residents evacuated inland, while 200 miles to the north, the Klychevskoy volcano erupted, sending lava cascading down its western slope. In Kamchatka, maximum tsunami wave heights reached 4 meters, 13 feet. Local officials reported that some structures in the coastal area of Severokurilsk were swept away. The Kremlin has stated that the alert systems functioned effectively during the earthquake response, resulting in no reported casualties. The tsunami prompted widespread warnings and evacuations across the Pacific, affecting regions in Japan, the U.S. West Coast, Hawaii, Canada, Chile, Ecuador, and New Zealand. Fortunately, the actual wave heights turned out to be less severe than initially anticipated. In Hawaii, the highest recorded waves reached 1.8 meters, while California experienced surges just over a meter, and in Japan, waves remained below half a meter. How effective was the warning system? Local authorities provided clear evacuation instructions and designated specific locations across more than a dozen countries. In Hawaii, for instance, tsunami warning sirens sounded, and evacuations were mandated for certain coastal areas. The Honolulu Department of Emergency Management issued alerts stating, "Take action, destructive tsunami waves expected," Residents received notifications on their mobile devices, and all islands activated emergency operations centers, opened shelters, and instructed coastal inhabitants to seek higher ground. Similar alerts were disseminated in other regions. In Japan, nearly 2 million individuals were ordered to evacuate to higher ground. Local media reported one tragic incident involving a woman who lost her life while attempting to escape by driving off a cliff. In Chile, authorities executed what the Interior Ministry described as perhaps the most massive evacuation ever carried out in our country, involving 1.4 million people. Ilan Kelman, a professor specializing in disasters and health at University College London, remarked, "It appears to have been very effective. People had long-term education and readiness to know what to do." He estimates that this preparedness saved thousands of lives. During this time of year, many tourists frequent Pacific coastlines, often unfamiliar with local warning systems or evacuation routes, complicating evacuation efforts. Kelman noted that in areas where the tsunami wave struck, many lives were preserved due to lessons learned from past experiences, particularly referencing the devastating 2004 Boxing Day tsunami that claimed over 200,000 lives. At that time, no regional tsunami early warning system existed, and the Indian Ocean was not regarded as a high-risk area. Warnings were sent via fax and email, failing to reach people in time. The 2004 tsunami was also significantly more catastrophic, with some waves exceeding 30 meters in height. In contrast, this is another crucial factor contributing to the limited damage observed. What improvements can be made? Several international centers issue automatic earthquake alerts based on location. The Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System was established following the 2004 disaster. Kelman stated, "It was never prioritized before then due to costs and other pressing issues, but it suddenly became essential. It has undergone several tests with mixed outcomes, indicating a need for enhancement. Currently, there is no effective equivalent for the Atlantic Ocean." The PTWC was the primary center responsible for identifying this earthquake. They acted swiftly, Kelman noted. Understanding the earthquake's size, depth, and type indicated a significant likelihood of a major tsunami. They issued warnings and disseminated messages that were then communicated by national governments and local authorities. However, the PTWC operates within a U.S. government agency that has faced budget cuts initiated by Elon Musk earlier this year. Kelman emphasized the necessity of such agencies, stating, "We hope that if the cuts impacted them, they will be reversed, and those who saved lives today will receive more support and resources. It seems they were exceptionally effective, and we owe them immense gratitude for issuing timely messages and saving numerous lives." Massive 8.8 magnitude Russian earthquake sparks tsunami waves reaching U.S. West Coast. A massive earthquake off Russia's Far East has sent waves crashing across the Pacific, affecting the U.S. West Coast, Japan, Hawaii, and many other regions. But here's where it gets controversial. Despite being one of the strongest quakes in recorded history, the disaster many feared ultimately didn't come. Let's dive into how this monumental event unfolded and why its impact surprised so many. On Wednesday at 11:25 local time, 0:25 BST, a colossal 8.8 magnitude earthquake struck near the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. This earthquake ranks as the sixth most powerful ever recorded globally. It triggered tsunami waves rippling across the Pacific, prompting emergency evacuations exceeding 2 million people from a wide area, including Japan, Hawaii, the U.S. West Coast, China, the Philippines, Indonesia, New Zealand, and even reaching distant countries like Peru, Chile, and Mexico. Thankfully, approximately 17 hours after the initial quake, the most severe threat of devastation appears to have faded. Tourists in Hawaii described the tense hours of waiting, with one telling the BBC how no catastrophic waves arrived. Official reports from Russian authorities confirm no casualties were reported, a surprising but welcome outcome given the quake's intensity. Why is this region so prone to seismic activity? It's located along the Pacific Ring of Fire, a horseshoe-shaped area notorious for frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. This ring follows the edges of several tectonic plates, massive slabs that make up the Earth's crust, constantly shifting and grinding against each other. Roughly 80% of the world's earthquakes occur along these boundaries. Kamchatka, like Japan and parts of the Americas, sits near one such plate junction, making tremors a part of daily life for residents. Even so, an earthquake as powerful as this one is extremely rare in the area. The last quake of comparable magnitude hit the same region in 1952, causing massive tsunamis over 12 meters high. Today, dramatic videos surfaced showing apartments shaking violently and hospital operating rooms trembling mid-surgery. Yet the medical teams maintained their calm and steadied patients despite the chaos. Russian officials called these tremors the strongest in decades and urged people to remain calm. Unfortunately, tsunami waves exceeding 5 meters did flood parts of the port town Severokurilsk, damaging infrastructure and sweeping away boats. Compounding the situation, scientists observed an eruption of Kluchevskoy volcano on Kamchatka shortly after the quake, underscoring how tectonic threats can cascade. Wondering how scientists measure such an earthquake's magnitude? They use the moment magnitude scale, a scientific method that considers the size of the fault surface that slipped, how far it moved, and the nature of the rocks involved. The scale increases logarithmically, so an 8.8 quake is not just slightly, but exponentially stronger than one measured at 7. For example, an 8.8 is 10 times larger than a 7.8. The tsunami warning was so serious that nations far from the epicenter took drastic precautions. Peru, for instance, closed over half of its Pacific ports and blocked nearby roads near Lima as potential waves approached their shores. In the United States, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem later confirmed the major tsunami threat had passed, though minor precautions remained active on the West Coast. Emergency officials advised everyone still in alerted areas to avoid coastal beaches. You might be curious, just how fast are tsunami waves? In deep ocean waters, they can reach speeds surpassing 500 miles per hour, rivaling passenger jet speeds. However, these waves are barely visible and spaced far apart, so ships often don't feel them pass. But when these waves approach shallow coastal waters, the speed slows considerably to around 20 to 30 miles per hour. Their heights increase dramatically, and they can appear as towering walls of water capable of immense destruction. Sometimes the water recedes dramatically before crashing back ashore, catching people off guard. Precautionary evacuations have been implemented in multiple regions, including the Galapagos Islands, where authorities urged residents to move to safer zones and postpone flights. Guam, a U.S. territory familiar with natural disasters, experienced calm but followed evacuation advisories, with residents coordinating through social media to reach higher grounds. Many returned home only after the danger diminished. French Polynesia experienced alerts as well, with President Macron personally urging citizens to follow official guidance, amid warnings of waves possibly reaching 4 meters. Across the Pacific, warnings and alerts shifted rapidly. North America maintained alerts particularly along the Californian coast and parts of Alaska, while South America saw warnings in Chile, Costa Rica, and El Salvador. Islands in Oceania, such as Tonga and Fiji, gradually canceled their alerts as the threat subsided. Communities in Kamchatka faced a terrifying moment during the quake. Local residents described panicked scenes, with families rushing outdoors in slippers or bathrobes, and chaotic traffic jams caused by scramble for safety. High school students recounted furniture toppling and neighbors hurrying outside with pets. These first-hand stories highlight the raw human emotion behind such natural disasters. Verification of social media videos was crucial to separate genuine footage from unrelated material. The BBC verified footage showing tsunami waves striking Severokurilsk and structural damage inside Kamchatka's Yelizovo airport. While debunking older videos falsely linked to the quake, many South Pacific Island nations downgraded their warnings as the tsunami threat decreased, yet Samoa maintained caution due to ongoing wave activity. In Southern California, some tsunami advisories were canceled, though northern alerts remained active. By the time waters reached the U.S. West Coast, the strongest waves measured just over a meter, far less than initially feared. Residents in places like Maui, Hawaii, shared their experiences of tension and uncertainty, having to alter their last day of vacation while awaiting events that ultimately did not occur. Japan, too, downgraded all tsunami warnings to advisories, signaling that while risks persist, the immediate danger had passed. So, what can we learn from this extraordinary event? Despite its enormous energy and the evacuation of millions, the worst-case tsunami scenarios were largely avoided. But here's the part most people miss. Does this show that warning systems are perhaps too cautious, leading to unnecessary mass evacuations and economic disruption? Or is it a vital investment in caution that will save lives next time? What do you think? Is our response to tsunami warnings always justified? Or could the system be improved to better balance risk and public response? Share your thoughts and join the discussion below. Understanding the Kamchatka 8.8 earthquake tsunami, forecasts, warnings, and U.S. impact. Brace yourself for a surprising truth. Just because a tsunami didn't wreak havoc or claim lives in the U.S. doesn't mean scientists got the forecast wrong, or that the threat wasn't real. In fact, the recent magnitude 8.8 earthquake near Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula gave us a vital, real-world reminder of how complex and critical earthquake and tsunami prediction really is. Here's the story most people miss. After the earthquake struck, a tsunami began racing across the Pacific Ocean at jet-like speeds, prompting urgent warnings for Hawaii, California, and Washington. But when those waves arrived, they didn't unleash disaster. Some bystanders, seeing waves just a few feet high, wondered if the warning system overreacted. But hold on, did this event truly amount to a false alarm? Not so fast, say earthquake and tsunami specialists. Dr. Harold Tobin, director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, likened the public's expectation to a Hollywood blockbuster. People hear tsunami warning and envision towering walls of water. When it's a 3-foot wave instead, they get skeptical. But he argues that the real win is our preparedness. The tsunami happened, the alerts worked, and a worst-case scenario was avoided. Let's unpack what actually happened and why the outcome was a success story for science and public safety. A megaquake with mysterious power. The initial readings from the U.S. Geological Survey put the Kamchatka quake at magnitude 8.0, but minutes later, with better data, that jumped to 8.8. Why do these numbers shift? As Dr. Tobin explains, the first calculations often get overwhelmed, much like an audio system distorting at max volume. In this case, confirmation came from deep ocean sensors in NOAA's DART network. A buoy detected a massive 90-centimeter, 35-inch wave, the second highest record in the history of tsunami monitoring. Only the catastrophic 2011 Tohoku event in Japan, which killed nearly 16,000 people, surpassed it. Seismic models confirmed that the Kamchatka quake was indeed enormous, releasing 16 times more energy than an 8.0 event. According to USGS calculators, still, Tohoku dwarfed it, with 2 to 3 times greater energy and a tsunami roughly 3 times the Kamchatka wave's size. One key difference? Tohoku's quake caused exceptional seafloor displacement, shoving aside immense volumes of water, whereas at Kamchatka, movement was less dramatic, sparing us a more dire scenario. But here's a debate starter. Should authorities always plan for the biggest possible seafloor shift? Forecasters under pressure. How did the models perform? Within hours, experts predicted tsunami travel times and water heights for the entire Pacific Basin. Using real-time seismic data and over 70 DART buoys, most owned by the U.S., the forecast anticipated 2-meter, 6.5-foot waves hitting Hawaii's North Shore. Slightly overestimated as it turned out, since the largest wave at Hilo reached about 1.5 meters, 5 feet. This conservative forecasting is intentional. It's exactly how we want it. Explained Dr. Vasily Titov, a leading NOAA tsunami researcher. Erring on the side of caution ensures maximum safety. California's coastal forecasts followed a similar pattern, but the full details will emerge as... Here's a jaw-dropping fact. Tsunami energy is vastly greater than that of ordinary wind-driven waves. Dr. Yong Wei, another NOAA and University of Washington expert, points out that even 1.5-meter waves can surge deep inland, generating lethal currents, damaging boats, and sweeping away anything in their path. As Dr. Tobin cautioned, warnings must err toward over-preparing communities, not under-preparing them, even if critics later declare it a false alarm. A historic region, but not a historic event. Let's not forget, the Kamchatka Peninsula has seen megaquakes before. In 1952, a magnitude 9.0 quake devastated the town of Severodvinsk with a deadly tsunami towering 30 to 60 feet. Thousands perished, an event made worse by a lack of warning and scientific understanding. History shows us, preparedness and science save lives, even if the threat doesn't materialize every time. Could this happen closer to home? This is where the conversation gets controversial. The U.S. West Coast sits atop the Cascadia subduction zone, a fault line eerily similar to Kamchatka's. Dr. Tobin warns that Cascadia could unleash not only magnitude 8.8 quakes, but even more powerful ones, with tsunami waves as high as 100 feet. And if such a quake struck nearby, the tsunami might hit shores within 30 to 60 minutes, seriously challenging forecasters. Dr. Titov advocates increased investment in seafloor sensors and AI-based forecasting tools to meet this challenge. Without such tech, our ability to react in time could fall dangerously short. And here's a critical take. At a moment when government research agencies face budget scrutiny, shouldn't their recent success spur more support and funding? Dr. Tobin argues that NOAA and the USGS prove their worth by averting disaster. So, what do you think? Were the warnings too cautious? Or just right? Should we focus on always preparing for the worst, even if most warnings never amount to catastrophe? And do you trust the U.S. is ready for a true megaquake at home? Don't hold back. Share your perspectives or critiques in the comments below. This is a discussion with real stakes for all of us.